The Audi A4 Avant or Estate has always felt like something of an obvious choice really. Why wouldn't you pick this refined, comfortable and easy to drive estate car? Well, in recent times, the A4's job hasn't been as easy as it once was. As well as the traditional rivals from the likes of BMW and Volvo, it's also got some cheeky new upstarts from the worlds of crossover and small SUVs. So, is this car a little bit long in the tooth now, and should you be checking out something else, or does it remain that favourite that it always has been? Well, today we're going to be checking out all the reasons why you should be looking at the new A4 Avant. The look of the A4 Avant is definitely smoothed off over time. This one isn't an S-Line, so it doesn't get the large alloy wheels, but it's definitely spruced up some black accents around the windows and for the roof rails. What do you think of the look of this car? Well, let us know in the comment section below, but I still think it looks pretty sharp, albeit not the most exciting of designs that's out there at the moment. The basic cabin architecture of the A4 hasn't changed for quite a while, but it's still a very pleasant place to be. In this car, which is a sport model, I'm still getting a large central infotainment system as standard, as well as Audi's virtual cockpit, which has now become just so familiar that it's very easy to use and very easy to get up to speed with. The general fit and finish is good here. I do just think it just seems a little bit lackluster, although we've got some silvery bits to help liven up the overall feel of it. It's just quite a dark cabin really. But we've got plenty of storage options, two nice cup holders, a section in the middle for your loose change or for your keys, and a nice area under here which also is a great place to store your phone so you don't lose it. You've also got a good amount of charging options. There's a standard USB socket up here alongside a 12-volt socket, and underneath here we've got a USB-C charging point. It's a very usable and accessible cabin area. I just don't feel like it's all that exciting. Much the same as the forward part of the A4 Avant's cabin, the rear section is pretty, well, it's kind of tried and tested, I guess you'd call it. We've got some large netting areas for those loose items, and we do have independent controls for the heating and ventilation, so that's a nice touch. There's a 12-volt socket here for charging, but I would have liked to have seen a couple of USB chargers or USB-C chargers, just so you can plug those cables in directly rather than having to buy an adapter and go through that separately. In terms of outright comfort, these side seats are nice and wide and they are comfortable. And the one in the middle is pretty wide too, though you've got quite a large transmission tunnel to contend with. We've got ISOFIX points at both sides for those child seats, and actually the doors open pretty wide so you can get them in relatively easily too. In the middle we've got an armrest, and actually I really like these intricate cup holder designs which I've not noticed before. I don't know why I really enjoy those, but they just seem quite cool and a little bit different really. Overall, nothing too groundbreaking, but it gets all the individual jobs done very well. At 495 litres, the boot that you get from the A4 Avant is more than large enough for most occasions. It's nice and square and it's easy to access too, and you have these netting sections at the side for those looser items. The only thing that I noticed with this boot is that you've got this large stainless steel section here which sits in front of a very large painted section here. So if you've got a dog, or if you're putting those big heavier items or wooden furniture, then you may want to get some sort of rubber cover that drops down to protect that other area, otherwise I feel like it's going to get scratched pretty quick. If you do want a little bit more space, then you can fold these seats down and it extends the load area to 1,495 litres in total. The Audi A4 has always been something of a multi-tool really. It's been a car that has been able to take your kids, take the family, take the dog, take all your kit and gear, but it'll also do those really long motorway stints comfortably and easily. One of the core parts of that has been its ability to offer a multitude of different powertrains. Of course, the diesels are the big hitters with the A4 range because this is a car designed to do long distances, and diesels do well at long distances. Is this car a diesel? No, it's a petrol. It's a 2-litre turbocharged petrol engine, and it brings around about 200 brake horsepower, and that means a 0 to 60 time of a snitch over 7 seconds, which I think is pretty decent performance. It's got a 7-speed automatic gearbox. It's all very traditional, I think you would call it. Now, this isn't a sporty S-Line version, and actually I think that's quite nice because this car rides relatively well. I'm getting a little bit of wobble, a little bit of hot head shake, but actually over this road, which I know quite well and I know it's pretty bumpy, this is doing rather well indeed. The steering, as it is in so many Audis, is just a little bit lifeless really, but I've got a nice clear view of the road ahead. The rear screen is nice and large too, and these pillars aren't too thick, so I'm not getting my view obscured by large chunky pillars. Now Audi claims you should be getting, when it comes to fuel efficiency, somewhere around 45 mpg combined. Now of course I think you probably get slightly more than that on a longer run, and slightly less than that on a shorter run, of course. You've got to balance it out. But that does mean that you're getting quite a lot of efficiency for a petrol engine, which, I don't know about you, but in my head I always think of a petrol engine as not being quite as efficient. But this still feels very pleasant to drive indeed, and it's not going to cost too much to keep it going. One thing that Audis have suffered with of late is a certain amount of lag when you're trying to get on the throttle quickly. Now, it's not so noticeable when you're rolling on it throttle, so here it does kick down quite pleasantly, but it's more to do with when you are going from a dead stop, going away for a junction, or trying to get into a roundabout quickly. This is something that's usually down to the calibration between the engine and the gearbox, and it's something that I've noticed mainly in the diesel engines. It's got better actually since they've started integrating 48 volt mild hybrid technology. That seems to have ironed out the bumps, so to speak. It's not quite as present in this petrol version, but it's still here from time to time. This engine setup actually pulls really nicely, and it's very pleasantly refined, and the noise is isolated well too from entering into the cabin. It's a very quiet package actually, and I think that's going to make it very pleasant over long distances. Sometimes with the estate versions you get a tiny bit more boom just because you've got a little bit more area behind you, and that makes the noise radiate around a little bit more than it would do in a saloon car. But this A4 is quiet and it's refined and it's comfortable, so it's ticking all of the usual estate car boxes. Is it all that exciting to drive? I don't think it is particularly. As I've mentioned, the steering isn't the most full of character, and though you have got wheel mounted paddles, I'm not obliged to use them in this car. It just doesn't feel like you need to or want to. But it's not to say that this isn't a good car. This is a very comfortable and easy to drive car as a whole. The Audi A4 Avant continues to tick a lot of boxes. It's very practical, it's very comfortable, and it's very easy to drive as well. I don't think it's got the most amount of flair in the market, and it certainly doesn't feel like the most exciting car out there. But if you're wanting a dependable car that will take all of your equipment and have plenty of space for people in the back too, then it seems like a very viable option. You might like the look of this car, and if you do, let us know in the comments section below, alongside anything else you think about this new Audi. Would you pick it, or would you go for something like a BMW 3 Series or a Volvo V60 instead? And since you're here, please remember to subscribe to the Motors.co.uk YouTube channel and hit that bell icon so you're notified every time we upload a new video.